Imagine sitting at the edge of the Grand Canyon, looking out across the vastness. The sun setting, there's a river babbling in the background. The campfire is crackling, and there's the smell of wood smoke in the air. An old Indian and his grandson are sitting at that fire talking about life. The grandfather is sharing his wisdom from many years of living. He says to the boy, "A fight is going on inside of me. It's a fight between two wolves. One wolf full of anger, greed, and fear. The other, love, joy, and hope. The same fight is going on inside of you, grandson, and inside every person." The grandson thought about this for a moment and asked, "Which wolf wins, grandfather?" "The wolf you feed," he said. Like you, I was dealt a tough hand. A serious illness diagnosis turned my world upside down. I'd been spending time with family and friends, building up my new business, and getting outdoors as much as possible to walk or bike. And after months of not being well, I got the news: Hodgkin lymphoma. For the next 25 minutes, we're going to use words to talk about words. There are 3 key messages I would love you to take away today. Number 1, it's okay to choose the words you use. Number 2, you have the power to choose the words you use. And 3, words are the key to everything. The words you're using might be making life even tougher than it needs to be. Because here's the thing, you don't have to accept the language that doesn't support you well. Nor do you need to use words that don't help you be your authentic self. It's okay to choose the words you use. You really do have that choice. The words you use make a big difference. I know this firsthand. This is more than a theory lesson today. We're going to experiment with some words shortly to see how they make you feel. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to choose the right words for you. We've got a lot of great stuff to get through, and it's really important that you have this information because I truly want you to be able to decide for yourself. So it's okay to choose the words you use. It's okay to choose the words you use. We often say things because others around us say them, and they must surely know what they're saying because they're experts potentially. But how often have you found yourself using words that deep down didn't sit well with you? Have you ever said something that didn't feel right? But the specialist said it, and the doctor said it, a nurse said it, the person you were sitting next to said it, your next door neighbour said it, the Google said it, a friend of a friend, and you heard it on the radio, so it must be right. Right. Well, here's the news. It's okay to choose the words you use. You don't have to accept the words that others use. It's okay to ask the people around you, your family and friends, to respect the language you choose. This is your life. You're the one experiencing this illness, this treatment. This is you. You know you best, and you know what words work for you. But in that moment of diagnosis, and what a big moment it is, we can forget who we are and what matters to us. We forget our strengths and our skills, and it's understandable because there's nothing to prepare us for a serious illness diagnosis. Of course there'll be an emotional reaction. It's only natural that there would be. The first emotions I felt were guilt and relief. Guilt because I was going to have to tell the people I love the most that I'd been diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma, with cancer. I was overwhelmed by the pain that this would cause them, and there was nothing I could do to avoid it. The guilt was enormous, but I made those phone calls and had those conversations. Guilt turned into relief. There was a diagnosis. I already knew I was unwell. I also knew it had to be more than muscle strain or a tummy bug that I'd picked up tramping in the South Island, both of which I'd been told originally were probably the reason for my sore neck and the many other symptoms I was experiencing. My efforts and energy could now be directed to being as well as possible. I chose to use the language that resonated with me. And I just want to take you back some 17 years ago from where this came from. You see, I was in a hospital ward with 3 women, and they were really scared. We were all there because we'd had significant vascular surgery, and those women were worried about what the doctors were saying because they didn't understand what was going on, and they were too afraid to ask questions. They didn't know what was going on, and so they continually talked about how fearful they were. They'd been in hospital for weeks, and none of them were due to go home soon. That was my moment. I realised that unless I took charge, unless I was the CEO of my health journey, I could be there for weeks too. So I carefully chose the words I used. So when the doctor came round and said because I'd been so sick, he didn't know how long I'd been in hospital for, I said I did. We've got a week and then I'm going home to heal. And I went home in a week. That lesson really struck with me. You know, I'm really grateful for all the people that supported me, family, friends, clients, the medical professionals. And I know for those closest to me, my journey with cancer was a really hard time for them. That was really, really hellish. But they're not me. I couldn't do things and I couldn't use words simply because that was what was expected. I had to do what was best for me. Now, am I an expert on cancer? No. Am I an expert on me? Absolutely, 100% yes. No one knows me better than me. No one knows you better than you. This is your life and you have a choice. I'm not here to pass judgment on the words you choose to use, but you need to know you have a choice and it's okay to choose because those words become your reality. You have the power to choose your words. You have the power to choose your words. Because of the fear and distress that's usually associated with a diagnosis, we can hand ourselves over to the illness, no longer a person or a patient. There are many specialists, doctors, nurses who will advise, prescribe, guide and inform our journey with illness. We've entered into a medical system that is a whole new set of language for us to use if we choose. As well as the small and seemingly insignificant words that we use each day, we've now got a layer of institutional and illness-related language that becomes part of our everyday vocabulary. There are many complicated medical names for illness and treatment, long, scary, and they're often difficult to pronounce and spell. The number of times I have Googled the illness I was diagnosed with, still cannot get the spelling sorted. And then there are words like patient, victim, fight, and battle, and you'll probably have other words that you've heard of as well. We've become part of an exclusive, albeit not that desirable, group of people who are exposed to all these words. But you don't need to use them. The words you use, that's your choice. Because you know what? We can actually only say one word at a time, can't we? If you try and say love and fear at the same time, it's not possible, is it? You can say one after the other, but not at the same time. So we have to make a decision. The trouble is, our minds go straight to the words we know. The words we've repeated so often that they've become automatic. But when you start to become aware of the words you're using, you can choose. You can choose what you say. Now, let me be clear. I'm not trying to say that we can use words to deny the truth of the situation. Like some of you, I was diagnosed with cancer, but that didn't make me a cancer patient. I was a person diagnosed with cancer. The cancer did not define me, nor did it become my identity. Now, for the medical system, it might be convenient to label people like me as a patient, but that doesn't mean I need to use that word, nor do I need to become patient-like. Does this matter? Does it matter whether you see yourself as a person or a patient? Is there really a difference? Yes, there is. You're a human being, a real person. We may have been diagnosed with an illness, but we haven't become that illness. We haven't gone from being a human being to a cancer patient. We're still human. We're a real, beautiful person. And here's the reason why This distinction is important. As a person who has within them the power of choice, you are in an empowered position. We cannot change that we have an illness. We get to choose how we view ourselves and the situation. If you think about the other view, being a patient, or possibly even a victim, which is also used, it's the opposite. No longer empowered. You're in a place of hopelessness and helplessness. Now, this isn't about ignoring the cancer. Cancer is really very real. It's about choosing how you view yourself and the situation. I chose not to use words like fight and battle, and some people think that means that I didn't fight for my life, and that's simply not the case. For me, I fight myself, that I had to battle me. The cancer was within me, part of me. Fighting and battling drags me down. Just thinking those words make me feel hopeless, helpless, and exhausted. This is about your power to choose. I've met and talked with people diagnosed with cancer who hate some of the words commonly used. Survivor, battle, fight, patient are just some of the words that have come up in conversation. Yes, words have a dictionary meaning, but they also have an emotional overlay. And we could debate the true meaning of words for hours. But you know what? It's going to come down to our own perception of what they mean. So I chose not to fight and battle, but did I do everything in my power to support my health? You bet I did. I might not have done things the usual way, and some people did comment that I was a bit different, that I was doing things they hadn't seen before. But it wasn't about being different. It was about honouring myself and doing what worked for me. By choosing my words, I wasn't consumed and overwhelmed by thoughts, words, and actions that reinforced illness, sickness, or suffering. Instead, I focused all my attention on being as healthy as possible in each moment of every day. You know, and it's okay to be honest. It's okay to say how you feel and what you need using the words that feel right for you. There are side effects from treatment, and these are piled on top of the symptoms you're already experiencing. It's a lot to have going on, and a simple shift in language will have an impact. Just as you can only say one word at a time, you can only have one thought at a time. Are your thoughts helping you to live well? Energy flows where attention goes. You know, statistics show that people who've just bought a new car have a higher than average chance of crashing that car. Why? Because they're focusing on not crashing their new car. All their attention goes on not crashing the car. But our brain first has to think about crashing the car to then think, don't do it, don't crash the car. But it's too late because we've focused all our attention on crashing the car. So don't think about the pink elephant. What did you think about? The pink elephant, right? Because you have to think about it. Energy flows where attention goes. So words are the key to everything. Words are the key to everything. Abracadabra. That's a pretty common word, one you've perhaps used yourself. It's usually associated with magic tricks. But did you know that the root meaning of the word abracadabra is with my word I create, or with my word I influence? Interesting, isn't it? With my word I create, with my word I influence. Have you ever stopped to think about the words you use? And have you thought about or noticed how they make you feel or how they influence what you do or don't do? Take a moment now and think about someone you know well. What words or phrases do they repeat often? Now you might think about someone who's always grumpy and maybe a lot of what they say is negative. The weather's never right, no one ever does the right thing, nothing ever works out, and every silver lining has a dirty great cloud attached to it. And you might also think about someone who's achieved success in life or business. They might say things like, I can do it, I'm giving this my best shot. Things didn't work out, so I tried again. and every cloud has a silver lining. You might notice what seem to be small and insignificant words like can, can't, do, don't, never, and always. Those are small words with a very big impact. It's worth thinking about, isn't it, the words that you use? So let's have a play with some words, and I'm hoping you're going to play with me because this requires some participation. So if you can sit up in your chair and look towards the front of the room, you can soften your gaze. You don't need to stare without blinking. And I'm going to say 3 phrases, and after I've said each phrase, could you just say it in your mind? You don't need to say it out loud, just say it in your mind. I'm not good enough. This will never end. I am a patient. Now we're going to do it again, but this time I'd love for you to say them out loud. So we've warmed up on the phrases, so now we're going to say them out loud. So I'll say them, and then if you could repeat them. I'm not good enough. This will never end. I am a patient. Thank you. Now, just your seating again. I'm going to do another set of phrases. So first up, just do them in your mind, so we warm up for them. I am enough. Nice, keen. This too will pass. I am a person. Okay, so we're going to say them out loud. So I am enough. This too will pass. I am a person. Did you feel any difference between the 2 sets of statements? Yeah. I'm not good enough. I am enough. This will never end. This too will pass. I am a patient. I am a person. It's interesting, isn't it, how our bodies respond to the words we're using. And there's more. Those words that you repeat many times a day form the beliefs that shape how you experience life. And what's a belief? Beliefs are statements that we believe to be true. They're not facts. Beliefs are not facts. But when we repeat something so often, it becomes a fact to us, doesn't it? And that's how we treat it. So if we look at a few beliefs, I can't cope, this will never end, this is hard, beliefs become so embedded that we don't realise how often we're thinking them, nor do we notice how they're starting to dominate. So think about it. When someone repeatedly tells themselves, I can't cope, what happens? That they don't cope, that's right. So whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. Such small, commonly used words, I don't cope and I can cope. But boy, the difference within them is huge. Our beliefs influence what we do and how we do it. They shape how we view the world. And every event, situation or circumstance pass through our beliefs. And those beliefs are formed by the words we use. Gets you thinking, doesn't it? You'll have noticed on your seats a card. It's a postcard-sized thing. It should look like this. Perfect. So on this side, there is space to write 7 words. What I'd love to encourage you to do is to write down 7 words or phrases that resonate with you. And because I'm conscious of time here, we'll just do 3 words today. I'd love to give you this time now to write 3 words or phrases that make you feel strong and capable. Now, you might already be using these, but maybe you've been holding back, going, I couldn't possibly. So just 3 words or phrases that empower and inspire you. They don't have to make sense to anyone else. These are for you. Great. And perhaps you'll have time over the next day or day and a half to write down some more words or phrases. Yeah, and use your card to look at them and remind yourself of what they are. So just to wrap up now, about 25 minutes ago, we were in the Grand Canyon. The sun was setting and the river was babbling in the background. There was the crackle of the campfire and that beautiful smell of wood smoke in the air. The grandfather was sitting with his grandson and they were talking about life and the two wolves. One wolf full of fear, greed and hate. The other, love, joy and hope. And the wolf that wins? The wolf you feed. You have a choice. You get to choose the language you use. Those seemingly simple words have a huge impact on you, your life and your health. What will you choose? Which wolf will you choose to feed? 9 months after my treatment finished, I sat on the edge of the Grand Canyon and looked out across the vastness. I was alive and well. Thank you.